I still remember that day, the music, the lights, the whispers. The whole world seemed to watch as I stood at the edge of my own wedding, my heart pounding louder than the drums. And then, she walked in. His lover. Dressed in red, her lips curved in triumph, her eyes daring me to crumble. She thought she would ruin me, break me, shame me in front of everyone I loved. For a second, I almost faltered. But something inside me sparked to life. That was the moment everything changed. And she learned regret the hard way. Welcome to the Untold Love, where every story holds hidden truths of the heart. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. They say love always finds you when you least expect it. For me, that truth unfolded quietly, like the soft opening of a flower in the morning light. I wasn't a girl born into riches, nor did I grow up with everything I ever wanted. My life was simple, filled with small joys and silent struggles. I used to believe that maybe love wasn't for people like me, that perhaps my story was written only in shades of sacrifice and waiting. But life had a different plan. The first time I saw Armin, it wasn't in some grand, magical place. It was on a rainy afternoon, when most people hurried to find shelter. I was standing by a little shop, holding an umbrella that refused to open properly, frustrated and ready to cry. That's when he appeared, smiling, offering his umbrella as if it was the most natural thing in the world. His eyes had a calmness, a depth that made me pause. In that single moment, something inside me whispered, "Remember this." Our conversations began with the simplest words. "Do you come here often?" he asked, his voice warm, carrying a comfort I didn't even know I was craving. Soon, those simple exchanges grew into longer talks. We discovered the little things that connected us, our shared love for books, his fascination with old music, my secret dream of traveling to the mountains someday. He listened as if every word I spoke mattered, as if I wasn't just another face in the crowd. And for the first time in years, I felt seen. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. We weren't rushing, our bond grew slowly, almost like the way a river carves its path, steady, patient, and sure. I found myself waiting for his calls, smiling at his messages, and silently wishing for our walks to never end. There was something different about Armin. His love wasn't loud, it wasn't made of flashy promises. It was quiet, steady, like the kind of fire that doesn't burn you but warms you from the inside. And slowly, the walls I had built around my heart began to fall. The insecurities that once haunted me, the fear of not being enough, the doubt that maybe I wasn't worthy of love, began to fade whenever I looked into his eyes. With him, I didn't have to pretend. I could laugh without hesitation, cry without shame, and dream without fear of being mocked. Looking back, I realize, it wasn't the moment we met that changed my life, it was every moment after, every small gesture, every silent promise, every smile that told me I wasn't alone anymore. In Armin, I had found not just love, but the beginning of a home. Every love story, no matter how perfect it seems, carries its own shadows. For me, those shadows came quietly, like whispers that creep into the night when everything is still. Just when I had started to believe that Armin and I were untouchable, I began to hear things. It started with a careless comment from an acquaintance, "You know, Armin has a past. A woman he could never forget." At first, I laughed it off. Who doesn't have a past? We all carry pieces of old stories with us. But the way she said it, the glint in her eyes, stayed with me. Soon, others added to the whispers. A friend mentioned seeing him with someone long before he met me. Another hinted that the woman still lingered in his life, like an unhealed scar. Their words played in my mind when the nights grew too silent. I wanted to ask him. I wanted to lay all my fears bare. But every time I looked at him, smiling, gentle, his hand holding mine as if I was his only world, I froze. Was it fair to question the man who had done nothing but love me? Would asking mean I didn't trust him? And so, I stayed quiet. But silence can be heavy. It can grow between two people like an invisible wall. I remember one evening when Armin noticed my distance. He gently asked, "Is something bothering you?" His voice was soft, but my heart raced. I shook my head, forcing a smile. I told myself it was nothing, that I was overthinking. He deserved my trust. And he gave me reasons to believe him. He never hid his life from me, never gave me cause to doubt. He showed up when he promised, he remembered the smallest details, he spoke of the future as if I was stitched into every part of it. Still, the whispers refused to leave me. At night, when the world was quiet, my mind betrayed me. I would imagine her, this nameless, faceless woman from his past. Was she prettier than me? Smarter? Did she still hold a part of his heart that I could never touch? I hated myself for thinking this way, yet I couldn't stop. And yet, despite all of it, I chose to trust him. I reminded myself of his eyes when he looked at me, the honesty in his voice, the care in his hands. Love, I told myself, demands faith. And so, I buried my fears, deep within my chest, hoping they would fade. But little did I know, shadows never disappear just because you close your eyes. They wait, patiently, for the right moment to rise. The morning of my wedding felt like a dream wrapped in gold. The air was heavy with the scent of roses and marigolds, music floated softly from the courtyard, and everywhere I turned, there were smiles. My dress shimmered in the soft light, the fabric whispering promises of forever. I should have been the happiest bride in the world, and for a few hours, I truly was. I remember standing before the mirror, my hands trembling as I adjusted my veil. My heart was racing, not with fear, but with a joy so deep it felt fragile. Armin was going to be my husband. The boy who had once shielded me from the rain was now the man who promised to shield me from every storm. I whispered to my reflection. This is it. This is love's reward. The hall glittered with lights as guests poured in, laughter and blessings filling the air. My family beamed with pride, and everywhere I looked, people were celebrating us. Every step I took toward that stage felt like stepping into a new life. My pulse raced with excitement, my heart swelling with love. And then, silence. A hush. So sharp it cut through the music. I followed the shift of every eye in the room, and that's when I saw her. She entered the hall with the kind of confidence that stole the air from the room. Dressed in deep red, her beauty was undeniable. But her smile was laced with venom. Her eyes locked on me, and in them, I saw nothing but challenge. Whispers rippled through the crowd like a storm, names being exchanged, people leaning closer to one another with shocked faces. I didn't need anyone to tell me who she was. I already knew. Armin's past. The woman from the whispers. The shadow I had tried so hard to ignore. She walked closer, her heels striking against the marble floor like war drums. And then, in front of everyone, she spoke. Her words were sharp, meant to pierce me. She claimed Armin was still hers, that his love belonged to her and always would. She laughed as if I was nothing more than a mistake standing in her way. The world seemed to blur around me. The weight of 100 eyes pressed against my skin. Shame, fear, anger, all collided in my chest, making it hard to breathe. I wanted to run, to hide, to disappear. But deep inside, a voice whispered, not today, not now. Because that day wasn't just about love. It was about courage. And the story was only beginning. For a moment, as her words echoed through the hall, I felt myself breaking. Every whisper around me became a dagger. Every doubtful glance from the guests pressed against my chest like a weight too heavy to carry. I wanted to cry, to scream. To vanish into the ground and never return. But then, something inside me shifted. I remembered every moment Armin had held my hand, every promise he had whispered when I felt insecure, every time he had chosen me without hesitation. Was I really going to let one bitter voice steal all of that? Was I going to let her define my worth? No. Not anymore. I took a deep breath, steadying the storm within me. My hands, once trembling, grew still. My heart, though still racing, beat with a new rhythm, one of resolve. Slowly, I lifted my chin and met her gaze. And for the first time since she had walked in, I wasn't afraid. You came here to humiliate me, I said softly, my voice carrying across the hall, but humiliation only belongs to those who forget their dignity. And mine is not for you to take. Her smirk faltered. The guests, who had been whispering, fell silent. I could feel their eyes shifting, not in pity, but in quiet respect. I wasn't the fragile bride she expected to shatter. I was something more. I didn't shout. I didn't weep. I simply stood tall, holding on to every ounce of strength my heart had hidden until now. I reminded her, and perhaps myself too, that love isn't measured by who speaks the loudest, but by who stays the truest. You say he was yours, I continued, my voice steady as my eyes locked with hers. But what is love if it doesn't last? What is love if it abandons you when tested? If he truly belonged to you, he wouldn't be standing with me today. So perhaps it is time you accept the truth, love is not taken, it is given. And his is not yours anymore. Her face stiffened, and for the first time, I saw uncertainty in her eyes. The power she carried into that hall began to crack. In that moment, I understood something I had never known before. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it speaks quietly, with dignity, in the face of those who want to see you fall. And when you refuse to bow, you rise higher than ever. That day, in the silence of a watching crowd, I rose. As my words settled into the silence of the hall, I could feel the shift in the air. The whispers had stopped. The mocking smiles had faded. For a brief moment, it was just her and me, two women standing at the edge of pride and pain. But then, another voice rose, one that silenced everything else. It was Armin. He stepped forward, his face pale, but his eyes burning with resolve. His hand reached for mine, holding it tightly as though anchoring me against the storm. His voice trembled at first, but with each word, it grew steadier. Yes, he said, his gaze fixed on her. It's true. You were once a part of my life. But you weren't love, you were a wound. A chapter one should have closed long ago. Gasps rippled through the hall. She stood frozen, her confidence flickering like a dying flame. Armin continued, his voice cutting through the thick air. You betrayed me, time and again. You played with my heart, my trust, until there was nothing left but pieces. And yet, I was too weak then, too afraid to let go of you. I thought your presence was love, when in reality, it was poison. Her lips trembled, but no words came. And then, he turned to look at me, his eyes softening, I met her. She didn't just love me, she healed me. She gave me the courage to walk away from the darkness you left behind. With her, I found what I never had with you, peace, honesty, and a love that doesn't destroy but builds. The hall was utterly still. Some guests bowed their heads, others exchanged glances heavy with realization. And I felt tears gather in my eyes, not from pain, but from the truth I had longed to hear. Armin let out a shaky breath and said, so yes, once you were a part of my story. But you are not my future. She is. His words landed like a final blow. Her face, once so proud, crumbled. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for support, but found only silence and judgment. With a bitter scoff, she turned on her heels and walked away, her footsteps echoing like the sound of defeat. In that moment, I realized the truth wasn't just his to reveal. It was ours. A shared declaration, a promise that no shadow from the past could dim what we had built together. And as the doors closed behind her, I knew the battle was over. Love had won. When the doors closed behind her, a silence lingered in the hall, a silence so heavy it felt like the world itself was holding its breath. My heart was still racing, but it was no longer out of fear. This time, it was out of strength. I looked around the room and saw faces that had moments ago been filled with doubt. Now, those same faces held something else, respect. Not pity, not judgment, but respect. They had seen me stand tall when breaking down would have been easier. And in their eyes, I had already won. Armin's hand tightened around mine, grounding me, steadying me. When I looked at him, I didn't see a man torn by his past anymore. I saw the man who had chosen me, fully, openly, without hesitation. His eyes carried both apology and admiration, as though he, too, had just witnessed a part of me he'd never seen before. But the truth is, the real victory wasn't hers walking away, or even Armin's declaration. The real victory was within me. For so long, I had carried fear like a shadow. Fear of not being enough. Fear of losing love. Fear of being compared to someone else. And in a single moment, I realized, none of that defined me. My worth didn't lie in her defeat, or even in his defense. It lay in the way I chose to rise when life tried to pull me down. I didn't need to humiliate her. I didn't need to shout or fight or prove myself to the world. All I needed was to remember who I was, a woman with dignity, a woman with love in her heart, and a woman who would never let someone else write her story for her. As the music slowly returned and the ceremony moved forward, I felt lighter, freer. Each ritual, each blessing, each smile from the people I loved felt different now, more meaningful. The wedding was no longer just about becoming a bride. It was about becoming someone stronger than I had ever imagined. That day, I walked into marriage not as someone rescued, but as someone reborn. And though the scars of that moment would always remain, I knew they were not marks of weakness. They were proof of my courage. Proof that even when the world tried to shame me, I chose to stand tall. And in that silent victory, I didn't just win against her, I won against every doubt that had ever lived inside me. Sometimes, life gives us moments that test the very core of who we are. My wedding day was supposed to be nothing but joy, yet it became a battlefield of dignity, trust, and love. And though it did not unfold the way I had imagined as a little girl, it gave me something far greater than I could have ever dreamed, the strength to find myself. As the final rituals ended, I felt a stillness settle over me. The noise of the hall, the blessings, the laughter, it all blurred for a moment. As I closed my eyes and breathed deeply, I was no longer the trembling bride who feared whispers or comparisons. I was a woman who had walked through humiliation, through doubt, and had come out stronger, shining brighter than before. Armin stood by my side, his hand in mine, not as a savior but as a partner. That mattered more than anything else. He had chosen me, but more importantly, I had chosen myself. And that, I realized, was the true victory. Love without self-respect is a cage. But love with dignity, that is freedom. Later that night, when the crowd had gone and silence filled the room, I sat with Armin by my side. He looked at me as though I was something rare, something precious. And in that gaze, I saw not just his love, but his pride in the woman I had become. I told him softly, I don't regret what happened today. Because it taught me who I really am. He smiled, his thumb brushing gently over my hand. And who is that? He asked. I met his eyes, my heart steady. Someone who cannot be broken. Someone who will always rise. In that moment, I understood that life would not always be fair. People would come, try to shake our foundation, try to tear us apart. But no one could succeed unless we allowed them. And I would never allow it again. My story wasn't just about a wedding or a rival who tried to ruin it. It was about the quiet strength that lives inside all of us, the kind we often forget we have until life forces us to remember. That day, I didn't just become a wife. I became a woman who embraced her scars, her courage, her truth. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: love may be tested, but true love, anchored in trust, respect, and strength, always endures. Always.